Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Today, we are doing another Redux, as the title implies. We're going to be looking at Captain America and the Avengers, and we're going to just look at some characters, figures that are useful. I want to put a couple of shout outs of something that I may be working on soon. My bro, Big Will Holland, and another gentleman that's a new player at my local venue have sort of encouraged me to say, like, yo, what if I'm getting back in the game? What if I'm a new player? In part, that's why I'm doing the Redux series, but I've also had some folks say, like, go back to basics. Let's talk about basics. Let's talk about building that foundations for a player. Almost to the back in the day, like what's inside your head type stuff. And I'm thinking about it. My only concern is with the stuff that's inside of your head and building back the basics. To be honest, I am questioning, what in terms of how the game has shifted and how it's played. There are some things that I'm like, man, that was really good when I had a 8 tournament a year season, and now I'm playing mostly online and local games are sort of happening, not happening. And so I don't know if there's advice that I can give right now that's appropriate. I don't just want to rehash old videos, and none of it's monetized, so it's not like I could just be like, oh yeah, I need to make a new video just because. And you can go through the backlog, probably back like 3 to 4 years, and you can find some of that content. But yeah. So anyway, let's go ahead and focus on today's topic, which is Captain America and the Avengers Redux. All right, so I think there was one thing I need to point out was I think I made a mistake about Juggernaut, and he only can heal once per turn. And there was probably one other thing. It was in the comments, so look at the comments for the last video. I'm trying to be, I do the best I can when I admit, like, you just made a mistake. Yeah, like, sometimes I do, sometimes I get real giddy about things. I'm probably going to make mistakes with this too, so just be fair warned. As all good stock investors say, do your own research. All right, so let's go ahead and start off. My first pick is 1B, Josiah X. And the reason why I'm saying Josiah X is pretty much for his trait, which allows, or not trait, it is his special power. The crew empower friendly characters that are adjacent or share a keyword with Josiah X can reduce penetrating damage. So this matters more with there being a lot less invincible out there, and there are several good pieces of equipment and characters, and there's just a lot of freaking running shot psychic blast. I gotta admit that, like, it's sort of crazy just running around. So is he your prime? Yes. Is that like comforting? No. In certain teams where they have to, haul him around like a baby, yes. Is he cheap? Yes. Is he going to be top tier, here I am, rock you like a hurricane? No. Are there better primes in the game? Yes. If I was going to put him on the power scale value, he shouldn't be a prime. I think, unfortunately, the two biggest things that kills Josiah X is that he doesn't have Living Legend, which would have put him over. And there's 3 things. Second is that the crew is a special power that is only 2 clicks. And lastly, his point cost. And I know some folks will be like, it's 50 points for 6 clicks. That's standard. And it is. But unfortunately, the last three sets have really dropped down that point efficiency ceiling. And because of that, they sort of made him a little bit overcosted. And I never thought I would say something like that. All right, next up is Shield Agent. Main reason I like Shield Agent is that you have a multitude of different starting dials that are pretty much useful, determining on how you're going to play. And you're paying 15 points for Shield TA. So that's it. Like, you could take it a step forward and be like, oh, but I also have, potential for range combat expert, and also can see through hindering and move through hindering. But move through hindering doesn't mean much anymore. And I hate to say it, that does make it mildly overcosted, which means that this character could potentially be worth 12 points, maybe even 10 points. So yeah, did not add up. And I think this is one huge thing where when WizKids made their simplification changes, they really did gimp a lot of characters and team abilities in terms of value, like Ultimates, Avengers Initiative, Superman TA. All those team abilities really need to just be reevaluated and add some level of value, since improved movement ignores hindering is sort of for everyone. Okay, let's go ahead into the Shield Officer. Now, the Shield Officer is here specifically for two reasons. Like, he can buff up your melee, or he can buff up your range damage with the Shield TA or Empower. And he also has once per turn, when an adjacent friendly character with the Shield keyword moves after resolutions, you may place Shield officer adjacent to that character. Now, here's the great thing. Now it says place, okay, not carried. So you can have a character that has a high movement with shield with shield keyword, move up, do the do, and then teleport your shield officer to come in and clock somebody over the head. You can hold on to your object. You can be prepared to make a ranged attack. You can make a melee attack. There's a lot that you can do. Are you like dropping the pain? The answer is no. You're not really dropping the pain with your 2 damage, okay? Like, let's be honest. But this does help a situation where you have like a shield character that's using hypersonic speed. Actually, no. I don't think it would work with hypersonic speed because it does say after resolutions. That's sort of weird. Never mind. It wouldn't work with that. But in terms of having a character just move out, or they did their charge or running shot or whatever, and then after the attack is done, just like, boom, here I am. So that is sort of cool. Next up is Sharon Carter. And Sharon Carter is number 6. And the reason why I'm looking at Sharon Carter is the espionage trait, Best Part of My Day, which gives her and any Captain America, if they're adjacent, +1 to their leadership roles. Captain America or Steve Rogers. And I think that is sort of cool in terms of tempo, where you're at a 50-50, or if there's some other super caps out there, potentially over 50% chance of getting your leadership. And that is a momentum changer that I think a lot of people underestimate. Too bad he does not make Sentinels. Because I could really use that. Anyway. But that's something in general. Her perplex, to target a friendly character with the shield keyword, that character can use outwit until your next turn. That's really useful because you're power multiplication. You're getting power multiplication. All right. Next up is Happy Hogan. Happy Hogan is your passenger to decent taxi for your Avengers and for your Avengers. I'm like, let's just leave it at that. Is he game changing? Not really anymore. Is he useful? Yes, still. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Next, we're going to move into number 18, Captain America. Why are we looking at him? You're saying, hey, Dark Logos, that's 85 points. That's hella expensive for what he does. And I'm like, hey, let's start this off. First off, he has improved movement, characters, and hindering. I know the hindering doesn't mean anything anymore, but back in the day it did. The assembled Avengers is only really useful if you're going to be able to really pop in a good amount of Avengers. If not, don't stress about that trait. Living Legend, we're going back to the first time each game Captain America would be KO'd. Instead, turn him to his last non-KO click, then roll a d6 and heal him equal to half the result. Protected Pulse Wave. Now, this is really huge because you're functionally making it so that this guy is 7 to 9 clicks deep for 85 points, and that is worth it. I would also recommend him with a Soul Gem. That would definitely be worth it to make him ever so more annoying. And then also, if you had it, Peggy Carter, but we'll get to her at the end. Okay. Then you have, let's finish this Avengers Leadership. When Captain America rolls a d6 for leadership or the assembled Avengers trait, until your next turn, friendly characters can't have their combat values negatively modified. Bam. Okay. It just says, when he rolls a 6 for leadership. Sorry, I said d6. I'm so used to saying that. So, here's the issue. Again, remember what I said about tempo with, I think it's Sharon Carter. Yeah, with Sharon Carter. The fact that she can just buff that up, giving you that 50% chance, and you have the potential of getting those tokens off of you due to assembled Avengers. So there is a lot of momentum built into this character. I just think is really cool to consider, and it, like a Soul Gem, just makes him that much more annoying, in my opinion. Let's keep it going. Next up is the Captain. Captain is the same reason I like Captain America is for the Captain is that he is cheap. He's not. He is cheap, and he doesn't have damage reduction, which does take like some of the little points out of him. But just the fact that he's cheap and your opponent has to kill him twice makes him a lot harder to deal with. He has Living Legend. He also has I can represent the American dream without being a government agent. At the beginning of the game, choose one to last the game. Captain America loses soldier keyword and gains the Marvel team ability of your choice that isn't uncopyable. Okay, so again, that's pretty cool. So let's go X-Men. Or the Captain can't have his combat values modified by other characters and can't have his attack rolls re-rolled. Now, you can still replace his dice, but your opponents can't prob him, which is pretty good. So you have your things, like you could pick. You can't pick like PD, but you could pick like something cool like Masters of Evil or Scrolls. Not what they were probably intending or thinking about, but man, you could pick it. Or Shield. Shield is a good one. But Brotherhood of Mutants, or also Minions of Doom. Unfortunately, wild cards are uncopyable. That is real sad, because if you could be a wild card, it would make him so much better. But yeah, they just gave him the old Thunderbolts feat and just said, hey, here you go. All right, so overall, in terms of utility, I think that he is really good. There are some things that he still stands up with. All right, next up is Ra Solomon, so that I can cry that this is really like one of my few only good attackers for Wakanda. And yeah, the improved targeting, where she can make ranged combat attacks while adjacent. While that is pretty cool, she also flies, and yeah, it's really not that hot. I just wanted to bring it up to sort of rub salt in my own wounds and cry with you together. Uh, so if you're a Wakanda player, you already know the pain. All right, so let's go to an actually good piece called Dario Agger. And I'm going to say this now. Dario Agger is by far one of the most underrated, underestimated, least talked about meta figure in the last 6 to 7 months. Okay, and some people be like, well, why is that, Dark Logos? I'm like, really go back and look through the sets. There has been this hyping of cosmic team ability. There's been this hyping of X-Men team ability. There's been the hyping of Fantastic Four and Scrolls. Like all this annoying stuff that is really, really frustrating. Even when you go into the Wonder Woman TA. Oh, look, I have super senses. Doop doop doo, because I copied it. Doop doop doo. Oh, I already had super senses, so I have +1 to super senses. So I'm really annoying to freaking deal with. Doop doop doo. Okay, Dario Agger says, what now, son? Stop with all this foolishness. This is done. Now let's fight. Okay, a lot of characters do not operate properly when you start janking with their team ability. Definitely when you have a trait that's based off of your team ability. So, Dario Agger, never play Legacy of Minos. Like, that's trash. Like, never do that. That's them being comic accurate. And thank you, WizKids, for making that optional. Okay, but never pay for that trash right there. You were running Dario Agger, and here he guts those team abilities. Okay, and yeah, you'd be like, oh, he gets 25 points, and then he can get shape change. Screw that. I do not care. Shape change is not worth it that much. It's not worth 25 points to this 4-click figure. Okay, so let's go look real quick. So he has stealth, TK. Oh my gosh, just right there. Okay, 10 attack. Yeah, all right, yeah. Mystics, Mastermind, 1 damage. All right, that sort of sucks. But endless supply of resource special power, outwit, probability control. That right there, my friends, is value. Okay, you have outwit and probability control, which is more powerful in a situation where you can get rid of a opposing figure's power cosmic equivalent. Okay, think about that. Being able to get rid of your opponent's equivalent of power cosmic and then just be like, I'm here to outwit you. Good luck, son. Let's go. You lost that impervious. You lost that invincible. This is going down right now. Okay, it makes him a target, which gives you some leeway for your big attacker and your secondary attacker, because your opponents have to be more mindful about him disrupting everything. Now, yes, there are some teams that just don't care because they're going to gene bomb you or blah, 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 some other weird stuff. Okay, I understand that. But there are still a lot of core mechanical gains in teams that utilize those abilities. But going back, opposing characters within 5 squares can't use team abilities. If like this just makes WWE permanently bad. Oh, I can't shoot you because you're on click 1. I'm just going to drop my Dario Agger right here, and then I'm going to EE you. Oh, it's amazing. I can see your entire team. Thank you, dual target energy explosion. All right, so yeah. Next up is Trick Shot. Now, I know some of you might be like, what the heck? He's still on this hype train for this GIMP figure. Yes, I am. And the reason is that I still believe that this is a good figure that never got a chance to really take off and had the potential to be ridiculously strong in a multitude of different formats. And then just because he did not have the best keywords, during the time everyone was trying to get 32 figures on a team. He was like pushed to the side. But I think in the current format where we're looking at a more reasonable +6, +7 theme team, and then I know my boys said, man, no, the theme teams is where it's at. Like non-theme is dead. I'm gonna slightly push back, even though I'll say yes, Lucas and PJ do know way more about the game as it is now than I do. I'm not going to front. But I will also say, from a meta perspective, they play as aggro players, which incentivize them to go first. And if they weren't aggro players, then looking at being like playing black, I hate using it in chess terms, but playing black has a different mindset to it. Playing a defensive and being more controlly has a different mindset to it. And I think this piece is a plain black piece. Okay? In which you don't need to run theme and you can cause problems. Now, I know someone says, like, well, he just takes a shot to the face and he's done. I'm like, cool. There are tons of other things that you can put in there. But it's just like, hey, I can run Faust. I can also run Molecule Man. I can run a variety of different other characters that can supplement this character. And then it's just like, he'll get gene bombed. I'm like, all right, cool. I can get gene bombed. Let me try to think about something I can do where I can alternate something in that may be able to help me restore some characters if I got gene bombed so I'm not completely gimped. Or I'm using Professor X, Magneto, or Invisible Woman to use a micro rotation where I'm rotating in maybe one or two characters instead of trying to swap out an entire team. There are a multitude of thoughts that are viable. And then I apologize. This is not what this show is about. But I sort of present those theorems to you so that when you're looking at these figures, and I'm willing to say that I am not the definitive guy 5 years ago. Let's talk about the meta. But I do think that when we start talking about the philosophy of the game, if it goes too hard with I'm first, the counter push will either be, all right, I'm going to expect 90% of the field is going to come to me. Why do I need to chase? If the minority of the field is prepared, if the majority of the field is going to put points into their build to exude energy to go downfield, and they're dedicating 30 to 50 points to doing that, why don't I not spend that 30 to 50 points to go downfield if my opponent is going to full on engage? And you're going to say, like, the Colossal Retaliator, Dark Logos, you gotta go kill the Colossal Retaliator. And truth be told, there are solutions for a majority of them. Anyway, and I don't want to be like, Dark Logos goes in on his teammates. And I'm not. And we've talked about this in part. But I do think that they speak from an aggressive perspective, and I don't. So sort of keep that in mind in my analysis. So when they're like, yo, theme, like if you're an aggro player, take that in. You're going to be looking at these teams about you going first. But only you have to realize your chance of going first with only a +3 variable is not that high. It's not guaranteed. Even if you're going against a non-themed team or you're both themed, like your standard teams that are solid are, like I said, 6 to 7 figures. And if most of the teams are 6 to 7 figures, then the only time that you get any standard deviation that's consistent is when you start going into 9. And when you start going into 9, you're not going into the most optimal teams. And so you're going to have problems. Well, not all the optimal teams. There is one, the scientist team. But even then, like, you need some other elements in there. But I'm not going to go any further. So uh, I know, like, Matt's looking like, you need to stop rambling and go. Anyway, let's go ahead and move. Let's finish talking about trick shot because I didn't even talk about them. Forget the assemble bolts and masters. That doesn't matter. And I hate to say it, that's inflating his points. You can do better than that. Once per turn, when a friendly character within 4 squares in line of fire would be hit by a ranged attack, you may roll a 2d6 and add trick shot's attack value. If your result is higher than your opponent's attack total, the attack is evaded. Now, it does not matter if they crit hit. I'll take that back on the crit hit one. The crit hit, I think there's specific rules that said it's an auto hit with crit hit, and then crit miss is an auto fail. Yes, so 3 through 11. A roll of 3 through 11. As long as his value exceeds the opponent's attack, ranged attack, it just didn't happen. It's an evaded. Okay, now, if there is wording in the power that says this cannot be evaded, well, I'm sorry, but there are not a ton of those. Okay. The fact of the matter is, when we start going back with this figure is a very strong zoning figure in which you can utilize him to protect larger figures that are more than likely going to suffer ranged attacks. Okay? And definitely if they have strong close combat ability, having the chance of negating 1 to 2 attacks can be huge. Okay. And the reason I say negating 1 to 2 attacks, because you can play multiple, and this is not once for all characters named trick shot. Their attack value is quite good with precision strike, and they have willpower, so they do have some, ability to keep tokens off themselves. Yes, they can just get lit up and punked. That's their only disadvantage. So I would tell you, you probably want to layer in something that can either block line of fire to them so they can still see their target, pack some barrier or grant stealth or use skying, which I think is on my list, or skiing, so that you can get some defensive capability in there, or just play freaking 75-point Green Lantern and be like, oh, we got a 19 defense in ESD, so yeah, like, good luck hitting that. Like, oh, did you hit? I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna roll. Let's see if we can negate that. So yeah, that might actually be a good foundation of running trick shot, and then running 19 defend Green Lantern, and going from there. And yeah, I think that might be actually a pretty good thing. Now, you would have to deal with your stealth problem, but yeah. All right, let's go. Next up is 40-point Wasp. And the only reason I'm bringing up 40-point Wasp is that she has the ability to shut down improved targeting within 5 squares. That's all improved targeting. Now, if there is something in the meta that you were completely concerned about, of it shooting through 80 different walls, if you are concerned about, XYZ character shooting over every hill and dale to hit your team, then Wasp is worth it. That's it. That's all she's good for. You put her up there in a very aggressive position and force your opponent to try to shoot her down before the major Kamehameha wave comes for your team. She's a sacrificial piece. Unfortunately, she's a bit expensive. If the only thing I would like to solve with her is just getting her defense up. All right, next up is the Pepper Potts. Pepper Potts is good for a couple of reasons. She's 25 points with stealth and perplex and Avengers. That is very important. Next is proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Once per turn for all characters with this trait, when a friendly character named Iron Man makes an attack, you may re-roll a 1 or 2. If the re-roll is a 6, heal both Pepper Pots and that Iron Man 1 click. That is very good. It's very specific. It really sucks that the Iron Man in this set is utter trash. But overall, the fact that you can find other Iron Mans that are not trash, that you can pair her up with, and the fact that she boosts up that Iron Man is really nice. And I don't think once per turn for all characters with this trait, you don't even have to be within range or line of fire. She just like prays for him and dice reroll magic happens. Okay, so just sort of keep that in mind. It does sort of suck that they made it for once per turn for all characters with this trait. That sort of sucks because like 2 or 3 of her would have been awesome and made a better Avengers team so you could actually have like a tentpole Iron Man. But oh well. Next up is Victor Mancha, and Victor Mancha is on here because he is the equivalent of Colossus for your Avengers. Now, if you remember what Super Colossus did, he said, "Hey, you can mastermind onto me because of Mutant Messiah, and I actually could take a hit and not be a punk, like several of the other characters that had that trait." With Victor Mancha, he just says like, "Look, forget all the glorious things that I was previously, and other iterations of heroclix. I am sort of trash, but I can take a hit for other people." But yeah, so he has the toughness. Friendly characters can use Mastermind, but only to choose Victor Mancha. When Victor Mancha is chosen for Mastermind by a character that shares a keyword, he can use Invulnerability. And that sort of sucks. That's the only way for him to get Invulnerability is if, and I really do mean it, if he is taking damage. And that sucks. So, yeah, like, is it bad? No, but you are limited to your Avengers, Robot, and Runaways. Now, if you are saying, but Dark Logos, what about this evil, team that you thought of with Nimrod, Trickshot, and, Victor Mancha? And I say to you, sir, shh, that's under development. Who told you about that team? But as silly as that team is, it is a troll team. I'm not going to front. It's a troll. It's a straight troll. But you could take it to a locals and piss a lot of people off with the troll. The better troll is doing it with Onslaught. Like, just do it with Onslaught and have him carry. I need to stop. Anyway. Let's get back. Let's get back to it. But yeah, so he's all right. Anyway, but the thing that I want you to think about is, do you have a character that you just need to make sure that he does not take those hits, like 30-point Faust, top dial, Green Lantern. Who else could be it? There's others. I mean, unfortunately, several characters. I'm just like, oh gosh, I would love that. They're all retired, but he has a place. And then the fact that he has robot keyword is useful, and he also has enhancement, which is also useful. The problem is that as an attacker, he's sort of mediocre, and he's bound to about 95% of the time never get to utilize his top click, which sort of sucks. So it makes him a little bit of an overcosted enhancement. But other than that, like if you need somebody to carry someone else around, he has some utility. All right, let's move over to Skyne. Now, Skyne is useful for 50 points for a couple of reasons. First off, is that she's a good candidate for the Mind Gem. Just kidding. She's not a good candidate for the Mind Gem. I know triple target mind control would sound awesome, but at a 4 range, that's a no-go. But anyway, going back, she does have the assemble bolts in Masters, so there is that. She also has unravel your soft defenses. She has incapacitate when Skin uses it. Opposing characters can't use super senses or shape change, which is very for that action. That is very good. Now, it has its uses. Is it broken? No. But I think it's something. And then we've a disguise shape change. Adjacent standard friendly characters can use shape change. And this is the defensive ability that I actually think is quite useful. I think Masters of Evil is PD for melee attacks now instead of chugga 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 choo choo keep going. So yeah, I mean, it has its uses depending on the type of team. Now, when going back to that whole mind control thing, do you know who needs PD for multi-targeted melee attack? Onslaught for mind control. And I think he does have multiple targets. So I'm not. Yes, he does. He has 3. Thought so. So again, welcome to the club and tell him Dark Logo sent you. All right. I'm just saying that in general. So I think that would be quite fun to utilize her with a Colossal, and because you're giving the Colossal shape change plus a melee PD. So there's there's some cool combos that you could potentially do. Now I know someone in the back of my head is yelling at me, "All black, the Necro Sword," and I know it exists. Does that give her as much value as she could have had before Absolute Carnage? Yes, her value does go down, but so did shape change in general. Okay, so and then someone else is like, "Oh, you know who else it is that just shuts all that stuff down? You Patches." Peaches? Did I hear Peaches? Patches. Oh, is it Patches? You sure? You sure about Patches? You sure it's Patches? I didn't think it was Patches. Is it Patches with the shape change? I think it is Patches with the shape change. So did a Wolverine. Okay, like literally that was there. So, Diamond Patch is still, the hotness, and he does take away shape change and stealth, and so did the 50-point Wolverine, but the range for Patches is a little bit bigger. It's 2 squares bigger for his aura. Now, is every team running Wolverine? Is every team running all black Necro Sword? Is every team running Patches? The answer is no. Every team isn't. So there is some uses. All right, so let's keep going. Azuri, you have him for Wakanda because he's just that good. You have to have him for Wakanda. So yeah, anyway, I'm biased. I'm hella biased. Okay. So going on, number 39, Captain America. Why are we looking at him? First and foremost, we have a decent range and swing. Okay. And if we compare him to number 18, Captain America, there is some downgrade on the attack. Okay, there is some downgrade on the attack. But we're getting more clicks of running shot. And we had that living legend. And we also have Carry On Steve's legacy. Super senses, toughness. We also got some flight going on. Super senses toughness, modified defense by +2 if Captain America moved during your last turn. So that's some niceness that happens on the back end of that dial. So overall, does Cat Falcon is he really doing the do? And the answer is that he is a lot more reasonably priced than 85-point Cap, and we did lose out on some of that attack value. Okay. But we gained a lot more in mobility, and I think that says something. And I'm not poo-pooing, 85-point Cap. I'm not going to poo-poo him. But when we start going to Cap Falcon in the current game, I will say that in the current game, he does have some utility. Now I know some folks will be like, I'm going to outwit him and punch him, and he's dead. Well, that's what Living Legend is for. And I would again also say Soul Gem. Soul Gem this dude. I know someone else say, but the Power Gem Dark Logos, he's going to come in and Kamehameha all them fools. Yes, he could potentially Kamehameha all them fools with the Power Gem, but pretty much almost anyone can Kamehameha all them fools with the Power Gem. That's nothing special. So when we start looking at being tactically mindful and messing with your opponents, a Soul Gem gives you that +1 defense where you could potentially stack it and get a +3. And more importantly, you get that steel energy. That steel energy goodness where you're just chugging up one click at a time, making your opponents just regret not being able to kill him. And when you come back and you're on your last click, or clicks 4, 5, or 6, if you're 4, if you're lucky, you're just going to be like, oh, I'm going to deck you in the face, and I'm going to go up a click, and you're going to have to fight for this the entire time. I'm going to make you struggle for this. So I believe that there is potential in Cap Falcon with the Soul Gem. And, oh, guess what? We're back at that 85 points. And he is super good. Okay? All right, so next up is War Machine. Now, I know some folks will be like, you're going to talk about War Machine. Like, what happened? Why is he good? And why is he, like, what's going on? Now, yes, there are some things, again. Assembled Avengers, yeah, that sucks. We're paying for that. That they loaded that on everyone. That's that tape deck, you know, that got added on to the car cost that you're paying for that you really didn't want, you know, because you had to, you know. But anyway, when we're going to go ahead and look at, he has improved targeting with War Machine and hindering, which is actually still useful. And he can make ranged attacks while adjacent to opposing characters, which is useful considering that you have a big old gun on your back. Then he has Minigun target lock, and this is why he is still meta, in my opinion. I wish he had Living Legend, but you know. Minigun target lock. When War Machine hits after resolutions, you may give a hit character a target lock token. Then remove all other target lock tokens. Now again, he has 2 targets, so he can put up to 2 target lock tokens down. Free. Make a range attack using War Machine's printed attack and damage values, but only to target the character with his target lock token. Now, he has perplex, but only target himself. Why does any of this matter? Okay. All right. So, with Minigun, he can first use variable threat response, perplex up either primarily his range, his attack, or his movement. But you're probably more than likely going to perplex up his movement and his attack. Those are his 2 main things that you're going to perplex up. Once you hit, you're hitting 11 for 4, maybe 5 if you're carrying an enhancement. Once you lay in that blast, boom, the cannons go off, and then you're going to fire again on that target. Okay. If you are in a double tap situation, this is very important because you're able to do that with the Minigun target lock. If you are in a situation where, I'll just be more blunt, you need to hit target A and B in the same turn for the same amount of damage. That's going to be really important. All right, and this is the other thing that goes off. When War Machine hits, after resolutions, you may give a hit character a target lock token, then remove all other target lock tokens. Okay, this is not a once per turn effect. Okay, and some of you are like, what are you talking about? All right, so I go in with my first attack. I shoot and I hit. Okay, I targeted 2 targets. I hit both targets. Boom. I decide how am I going to deal with my damage, and then which target I'm going to go in and activate target lock on. Okay? I pick that character. I then attack them with my printed values, regardless. So even if my opponent says like, if my opponent has some penalty on me, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, they could not apply any penalty to my attack or damage if I'm utilizing the target lock, which is a important thing because it sort of reads like pulse wave. Because you're going against the printed defense value. In this case, it would be your printed attack. So yeah, so the printed attack and damage means there's no modifiers. Positive or negative are in play. That's my assumption. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. If I'm wrong on that, someone just put it in the comments. But now you hit that character. Let's say you hit that character that second time. Your target lock would go on again. Now, if there's a errata saying no, that doesn't happen, then okay, I was wrong. But again, going into your next turn, you would automatically have a target lock token on that character. Okay, and you could just free unload. This character now is a bit better than Punisher, just a little bit than Punisher War Machine. Now, unfortunately, like the survivability and some other stuff, that's a whole different topic. But when we're starting to look, as long this minigun target lock is really, really strong, really strong. Okay. Now, I would also argue, and I've said this a bunch of times this session, Green Lantern. Like, soldier that sucker up, Green Lantern. Get him that 19 ESD. Because the boy is soft. Like, he can be outwitted. He can be Kamehameha'd, and, bring in Molecule Man and freaking John Stewart and build the wall. Like, I don't care. Like, figure out what you're going to do. Okay? Now, I know some of you are going to say, like, hey, Dark Logos. So now we're going to talk about Punisher War Machine. And I'm going to say yes and no. Punisher War Machine is not on my list. And there are a couple of reasons why Punisher War Machine is not on my list. I'm going to go break it down real quick. And I know some folks will be like, it's a waste of time. Why don't you just put it on the list? Because I know people are going to say, why not Punisher War Machine? Okay, I just know it. All right, so let's sort of go into it. Why Punisher War Machine is it's not the same hood dude that you knew before. All right, first off, I don't even think there's any good Punishers that exist in modern. And I'm gonna do a hot look real quick. Fantastic Four, never mind. Punisher. You couldn't bring in Prime Punisher. You could bring in the Fantastic Four Punisher, which isn't even freaking Punisher. Okay, so that's the only dude that you could bring in. Yeah. So there's no other Punisher that you can bring in. So automatically in modern, you're at a disadvantage. Okay, you're at a disadvantage. The next thing. That is I am not super pro him, is when we take a look and we look at the War Never Ends, we have Colossal Stamina, which is classic Colossal Stamina, which would allow us to constantly just sort of push through and make those attacks. And it says if Punisher War Machine has 2 action tokens, he has free make an attack. Okay. Well, when we start looking at that grind through, in the current state of the game, that grind through is really not as good as it used to be. And I can say, folks will be like, oh, but that double attack though. And I'd be like, yeah, that's a good point. Okay. That is a good point. Yo, that double attack though. But when we start looking at our damage output, it's a little bit lower. Also, our knockback damage is not as cool and awesome as it used to be. Now, while his Perplex is still, top grade, it's top shelf, okay. We have a lot of mechanics, in all honesty, that are not as good as they were. So, is he cheaper? Is this better? And I know I using my psychic force powers, I hear Tom yelling at me, "You're an idiot." Okay, I hear that now. The force reverberated through time, Tom. I hear you. I sense you with my force powers, and I'm going to send back to the future. I don't care, using this recording. But in particularly, like, yeah, like, he just does not stack up. Uh, and I know someone says, like, but neither does War Machine. No, I'm like, okay, cool, fair is fair. But for me to get my free attacks consistently, all I have to do is hit. Now, I know the argument is with consistency is that, oh, all I have to do with Punisher War Machine is have 2 tokens, which is true, but with you grinding through your own dial, a lot faster and taking more hits, you like there's a lot more that you have to do. Now, I know the other counter argument is I can have 3 enhancements and Kamehameha with Punisher War Machine, and I can't do that with War Machine. And I'm like, that's not exactly true. Not exactly true. You can Kamehameha with your first attack with Punisher War Machine and light them up with the power of 1,000 Thors. Okay. But your second attack is your printed damage. And that's the advantage that Punisher War Machine has. But again, in most situations, he's starting to grind through. Now, when we start talking about equipment and variables, there's other equipment and variables that can make both of these characters a lot better. But when we start looking at some of the setup stuff, I gotta be honest, in terms of dealing with threats, in terms of getting multiple targets down, in terms of accessibility, I believe War Machine has a case to be made to be played, more so than Punisher War Machine. All right, so that's my thesis, so let's keep going. Next up is Captain Marvel. I'm going to argue right now 150 and the 95 are both viable. I know some of you will be like, what, the 150 is viable? How so? She is a bear to take down. She's got 3 stop clicks. Now you're gonna be like, well, that's why I have Dakin on my sideboard. I'm like, well, good for you. You're playing X-Men, okay? If you're not playing X-Men and you do not have a answer to just deal with 3 stop clicks, and you're gonna be like, I have Jean Grey Bomb. You're not going to go. You're on Jean Grey Bomb, but you are not going to go through 3 stop clicks. You're going to go through 1 and maybe 2 if you're super lucky. I don't even know. Okay. But there is nothing that stops her from being healed up. There is nothing stopping her from being healed up. And I present that to you not as like, oh, we're going to play it and just be like, screw you, and you're going to have to go deal with it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's the fact of the matter when we start going back, and I'm going to say this as the defensive-minded person. When I can start combining in mechanics where I gain sustain and I can disrupt or force you to take 2 actions to do the equivalent to negate my 1 action, you have a problem. Okay? And I'm bringing up Soul Gem, and I know a lot of folks are probably getting frustrated with me bringing up Soul Gem, or I can even bring up Space Gem in this situation. These 2 gems with Marvel, and I know some folks be like, oh, well, freaking Space Gem, what you gonna do? These 2 gems with Marvel can be very, very disruptive. Soul Gem, we've already talked about it. Oh, yay, plus defense. Now I'm not an 18. She's not an 18. She's a 19. On hindering, she's a 20. Okay. Also, she's a soldier. So welcome to Green Lantern Corps backup support fly buddy of Hal Jordan. I don't think he's going to be hitting on her. She's not that good. But all of a sudden, with that Soul Gem in that Hal flying backup support, She goes from a 19 to a 20 to a 22 from range without having to be in hindering. That's annoying. Who are you going to go after? Hal or her first? You're going to go after Hal. Hal has a stop click. And if I have some way to heal up Hal, you sort of see where I'm going. Oh, I'm not going theme. I'm going to add in a Molecule Man because I have Hal Jordan and I'm going to plop down some walls. So now you have to put in your perplexes into attack. Then you have to go try to kill Molecule Man. Oh, you try to kill Molecule Man? All right, I have Soul Gem. I'm going to just doop, 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 doop. Okay, I'm going to just shoot you and come back. I have Prob. Oh, let me say go with Space Gem. Okay, let's give the nice reminder to everybody about Space Gem of why it's still dumb and why people never popped off with it when it was good. So you get a +1 to speed, phasing teleport. So guess what? I'm automatically if I just want to go, I'm going. And I have +1 to my speed. I have passenger 2, so guess what? I can carry Hal, and I also can carry whoever my medic is if I need to. And we're going to zippity-doo-dah wherever the heck I want. Okay, when this character hits, if the attack roll was 10 or higher, after resolutions, you may place a hit character up to 8 squares away from their current square. Oh, this looks like the next turn I won't have my lovely barrier from Molecule Man. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit you and put you way, over yonder. Okay, and you go see the Lord over there. Okay, and those tactics are very, very strong. And I know some folks will be like, well, what's better is just killing. Like, I understand that's very, I hate saying it like this, it's very simple-minded. It's very simple-minded. There are a lot more destructive things in a game when we're being tactical than I punch him, like I hit him with a rock, like Killer Croc in the Batman cartoon. Okay? Having more mobility, guaranteed escape, taking 2 with me, plus it's an increase in movement. And then if I hit and I roll a 10 up, I can and I have Prob on my first click. I just be like, poof, be gone. And you are 8 squares any direction from my current place. And if I want to be like, get over here, and I roll a 10 up, guess what? Your big guy is right next to my guy that can punch him and hit him with the heavy, or my 3 empowers, or whatever else is going on. So I put that to you to sort of say, it's like, I know a lot of folks have been like, oh, we just run in and do this, blah, blah, blah. But there is still, there's layers that folks have not just invested in trying to play. So anyway, with some of the newer pieces that are involved, definitely, I think she's still killer. And then also remember, she generates the Pog. So again, Space Gem is really good. You can alley up to her, little Bugs Bunny equivalent of the cat, and then just be like, congratulations, it's flurry time. It's flurry blades time. Okay? So there's that too. So those 2 options in particular, also with the Wingman, that is Green Lantern, offering that 19 defense, I think a 150 point Captain Marvel has a lot to say in the meta currently. 95 point Captain Marvel is still good. Yeah, and I know I didn't talk about the higher and all the other stuff because everyone knows all that. Okay, that's standard. But I think when we start talking about looking at the game differently, not just running the same scripts, and we're running creative options, I think this is a creative option. 150 points, and some defend, and some barrier, and possibly a medic, and some rocks, and then let's see what happens. I know some people might also say, well, then why are you promoting the 95? Because I still think the 95 is flexible. You still have enough things that you can add in there at the 95 points that make her viable. 2 stop clicks is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's something I think we should take very seriously in examination. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Next up is Immortal Hulk, and this is more of an honorable mention. I think with him errating that he can push onto his click still. I think he has a place. I don't think that he is the god killer that he was. I think that he has a place for a tactical play. That's about it. Beyond that, I think there's some serious questions that I think he sort of got gimped and he sort of got helped. Where he got gimped at, the no pushing, but they ratted that. The hindering, that's baked into his cost. Improvement in hindering, that's baked into his cost. Man by day, Immortal Monster by night, that's not bad. That's not bad because it allows him to come back and start throwing hands still. Equipment wise, he doesn't have the equipment that was really, really good for him in the past, because Doc Ock arms being gone in the current format, you're going into Waldo arms, which gives him some cool options, not necessarily the same level of utility as the Doc Ock arms. The power by sadistic vengeance, when a friendly character in line of fire is damaged by an opposing by opposing attack, put a vengeance token on this card. Free, remove 2 vengeance tokens to use charge at no cost. I like this. I still think this is good, and allows him to be that engine for your party. I said party for your team. So. I again, is he bad? No. Is he the top dog like he used to be? No. Is he viable? Yes. And I think that's the important thing for us to maintain in this series is you could still take him to a locals. You could still take him to a challenging tournament. There are a lot of teams that are not necessarily designed to deal with him. Do you have Dakin on the sideboard? No, you don't. Oh, you got Jean Grey bombed. Okay, I'm down past my first stop click. All right, how can I mitigate that? How do I think about responding to that? If I know that that's a constant, do I really want to push him to his first click? Well, he's a 100-point outwit. I'm like, okay, he's a 100-point outwit. Where does that put me at? How am I thinking differently? Like, how am I thinking of my spacing? Are they going to just go and try to just gene bomb, one of my figures? Or what happens if I fan out a little bit? How's that going to play out? Do I still have an offense? Like, again, these are serious questions that we need to think about in team design, that I feel like all of a sudden we've sort of, well, never mind. I'm going to be quiet on that. All right, so let's keep going. Next up is Atlas, and again, I like him because he's a Colossal Retaliator, and he has the potential to lay out some serious damage. Unfortunately, they janked him on the keywords, but that's okay. Next up is Songbird, and again, before Molecule Man, this was the Barrier Queen. This was the one building the walls for you, but. With Molecule Man in play, it's a little bit more sucky. Now, coming back though, I will say this: if you are looking at all this stuff, and you're like, Avengers, this sounds like it's sort of fun. Double up on her. Like, I know for myself, playing Justice League, I doubled up on 2 starter Green Lantern John Stewarts for Barrier. And they are okay. They're not, popping fresh. But, again, I sort of come back as like when we start thinking defensively, we start thinking by design, your opponent can't have everything. They can't have a Molecule Man and also have a Jean Grey bomb and also have a Dakin, and also have, a super long range attacker that can attack from across the map, and also have, 5 different pogs, and also have all the trouble alerts, plus all the swap outs. Plus, like you see what I'm saying is eventually a team only has so many finite elements. And with certain elements being less common, primarily the defensive and control level type of play, there are points for those things to sneak in and disrupt the way that the standard player is playing to give you a win. But just having all that barrier, because and she does it as free, barrier as free, but only generate 1 marker. Then remove all other blocking terrain markers adjacent to the generated marker. Okay, so that's pretty good. Then once per turn when Songbird hits. Oh, I messed up. Because is it the full price Songbird then that had barrier? I may have gotten ahead of myself. I think it may be the full cost Songbird. No, it's not. It's not. Okay. So I will come back and I'll errata my statements. I'll errata my statements. Is she a defensive option? No, because I messed up. I'm thinking she could do things that she couldn't do, and I apologize. At least I caught it live this time and didn't sound like a complete idiot before I corrected myself. But I do think she offers you that Molecule Man like option for dealing with your opponent's barrier, so you can open up and make that shot. So I think that's important. So is she? I was thinking like, oh, she's still tier 1. Now she's sort of like, I'm like, I'll say like tier 2. Tier 2. Next up is Chase Thor. Out of all the point values, I think 50 point value is probably, you're getting the most bang for your buck at 50. I would say 125, but unfortunately, we're not looking at that coolness that we were getting out of like Captain Marvel at 150. And I know that sounds really strange for me to say that, but when we really, start examining like really closely what that figured is. And like, look, at 125, we still only have 1 stop click. While we do have the potential of doing that free attack, that's really cool. It's not a huge amount of damage output. And while the bringing the lightning and crackling with electricity has some cool bonuses, I'd rather have Carol, which is really sad. I'd rather have Miss Marvel, not Kamala Khan, but like classic Miss Marvel than Captain Marvel. But again, not my demographic. She's not targeted toward my demographic. So yeah. But going back to the figure Thor, the Chase Thor, he hits hard. Yeah, that can be seen. He deals some penetrating damage. That is pretty clear. He had some cool follow-ups that he can have, but unfortunately, at his higher point values, it just is too many points for too little. At 50 points, he brings in a significant enough damage and utility in effects for you to sort of have him be your secondary attacker and be useful. So I have to say, playing him at 50 is useful. Ultron, Chase Ultron, same thing. Play him at 50, you're going to get a lot more out of him. Definitely if you're playing in a Meso, you're just going to get a lot more out of him now than you could in the past. And definitely with Master of Evil changing the way it is, you're definitely getting a lot more out of him now. So yeah, I definitely would say, is he like sort of a waste of points? No. I think there's a lot of utility there, and you're getting 4 clicks. Your opponent has to double tap. You're also getting a regen on your last click. So if they fail to do so to kill Ultron, you have a chance of coming back and then making them have to try to double tap you again. So yeah. And let's talk about Peggy Carter. And I know with the current rules, Peggy Carter is a way better figure in a lot of different ways. So let's first start off. When Steve fell, I had to step up, sideline active. When a friendly character named Captain America or Steve Rogers of 50 points or more is KO'd by an opposing attack, you may place Peggy Carter from your sideline into that square on her blue starting line, then deal her damage equal to the final amount of damage taken by that character minus the damage he was clicked. So she would take the excess damage. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, if this was like a perfect KO and there's no excess damage, congratulations, this chick is coming out top dial, popping fresh, bringing the hammer, the shield, the biscuits, and the crumpets, baby, like with the tea floating on the top of her head. All right, so yeah, that's what's up. But if she's not she's going to be, you're looking at click 3 on average, maybe click 4 if things went really bad. If you're looking at 5, 6, and 7, don't even bring that chick out. Don't give your opponent more points. Okay. Then you have the Becky Barnes win. Peggy Carter starts the game, generate Becky Barnes bystander. Nah, that's okay. Becky Barnes is an okay pog. But it's the fact of she has Living Legend that would still trigger for her, on top of generating on top of a Captain America, like, let's just call it for what it is, like Cap Falcon. Okay, you can play more aggressively with a character like that because now I have some bonuses, and I also have let's say I have a gem. The gem falls. Guess who can just take an action and pick it up? Peggy can. If I have a unequipped drop, not unequipped KO, guess who's going to be in that square? Peggy. And she could just boop, pick it up and keep on trucking. Now, her keywords, if you wanted to play her on a main team, you could do that, but I think that's a waste. I think everybody knows that that's a waste. Okay. So, like, if she comes out on that first click and everything is perfect and right in the world, your opponent is going to have not a impossible time. They're going to have a rough time. All right. If your GL is still flying the friendly skies saluting and he hadn't hit his stop click yet, then it's not as useful. But if your GL is down, it's the blackest night for your soldier team. Okay. And Cap went down with the stars and stripes, and out comes Peggy, and the sun is shining again, and for everyone. Like, yeah, like that night coming out with that 19 swinging, that's really good and really annoying for late game for your opponent. It's not impossible to hit, but it is annoying, and then that's the important thing to be mindful of. All right, so that's it for today's show. I like to thank you all for listening, and importantly, for the feedback that I asked about last time. Should I just go ahead and skip forward? Everybody said yes. I got enough messages in the email, and then in the comments, just skip the rest of the stuff. Just go straight to Captain America. No one's playing any of the rest of the stuff right now. So I listened to you, the listener, and I just did that. Next up, I know some folks are like, are you going to do the Fast Forces? In all honesty, the only thing good out that Fast Forces is not Captain America, is Iron Man at 50, and no one will play him. Like, I'm going to be 100 with you all. No one will play that figure, even though that figure is wonderful. Empower, enhancement, probability control. Once per turn, when Iron Man hits, after resolutions, you may roll a d6, 5 through 6. If your force has 3 plus friendly characters with the Avengers keyword, remove an action token from Iron Man, or give an action token to a hit target. If your force has 6 plus, do both. he's just good in the current environment where you're talking about floating around, needing damage pumps, and damage pumps only come from empower and enhancement, and he can do both plus prob. He is a way stronger piece. No one's going to play him. No one will look at him because A, the 50 points, and then B is, be honest with you, no one's really looking back this far. And his range is sort of mediocre. And the majority of the teams, they're already set up to do their quote unquote type of damage. So having both options doesn't seem as viable if you're specializing more in the range or the melee. Okay, so there's not a lot of people running that mixed martial arts. Let me phrase it. There are teams that are doing it, but they're swap teams. Like, why am I even fronting? They're swap teams. So anyway. All right, so that's it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you want to email me, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it Autobot, baby. And you can put in a comment below if you like what I was doing. Just go ahead and put a thumbs up. If you don't like it, put a thumbs down and then write in a comment like, what should I improve in these? And I'm open to criticism. Trust me, I've heard a lot of it over the years. I hear the worst of it from a teammate. So, and I smile as I say that because they mean it in all honesty and goodness. So yeah. So go ahead and leave your comments below. That's it. I'd like to thank you all for listening one more time. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.